When my daughter told me I wasn't expected for Thanksgiving, I smiled and made one call. By Christmas, she'd lost the house I helped her buy. If you enjoy true stories that stir the heart and make you think twice about family, hit subscribe, then let me tell you exactly how it happened. The morning it all began smelled like cinnamon and brown sugar. I was in my kitchen, rolling out pie crust the way my late wife, Maria, used to, slow, patient, humming Blue Moon under her breath. Every Thanksgiving since she passed, I'd kept the tradition. One pumpkin pie for the table, one for Emily, my only daughter. The radio was playing an old Willie Nelson song. Sunlight came through the blinds in thin golden lines, catching the dust that floated above my worn-out countertop. For a moment, it felt peaceful, until my phone rang. Emily. Her name lit up the screen like a blessing. I wiped my hands on my apron, smiling as I answered. "Hey, sweetheart," I said. "I was just thinking about you. I got the pies almost ready, your favorite, with the brown sugar crust. You still using that fancy oven of yours?" There was a pause. A long one. I heard traffic in the background, maybe the sound of a shopping cart. Her voice came out soft, rehearsed. "Dad, about Thanksgiving." I stopped rolling the dough. "Yeah. What about it?" She cleared her throat. "Well, things are a little different this year. Mark's parents are flying in from Chicago. His mom's been planning this whole family thing. Big dinner, lots of people." I smiled, even though something inside me tightened. The more the merrier, right? I can bring my own chair. Another pause. This time, I could hear her breathing. "Dad, it's just that, we're short on space. And Mark's parents, they're not used to big, loud dinners. They like things quiet, formal." The rolling pin slipped from my hand and hit the counter with a dull thud. "Quiet and formal," I repeated. "You mean not like how we used to do it?" "It's not that," she said quickly. "You know I love you, Dad. It's just, his parents can be particular. I don't want them to feel uncomfortable." I stared at the pie dough, half rolled, cracked around the edges. The kitchen suddenly felt too still. "So," I said slowly, "you're telling me you don't want me there?" "I didn't say that. I think it might be easier this way. Maybe you could come the weekend after. We could go out for lunch, there's that diner you like." Her words were careful, as if she was stepping around something fragile. But the meaning cut clean. For the first time in 38 years, my daughter didn't want me at her Thanksgiving table. I looked around my kitchen, the chipped mugs, the faded family photos on the fridge. In one of them, Emily was 10 years old, holding a rolling pin twice her size, smiling next to her mother. Maria had flour on her nose. We were poor back then, but we were happy. I swallowed hard. "You know," I said, forcing a chuckle, "your mom used to make 2 pies every year just so you could eat one before dinner." "I remember," she said softly. "Dad, please don't be upset." "I'm not upset," I lied. "You go enjoy your formal dinner." "Dad." But I'd already hit the red button. The silence after the call was deafening. The radio had gone to commercials. The sunlight had shifted, cooler now, as if the day itself had dimmed. I picked up the rolling pin again, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. For years, I'd imagined Thanksgiving at Emily's house as a sign that I'd done something right, that I'd raised her well enough to build her own family. I never thought she'd build one without me. I walked to the window. Across the street, my neighbor's kids were raking leaves into a big orange pile, laughing as the wind scattered them. The smell of someone's turkey already roasting drifted faintly through the air. I sat down at the table and tried to finish the pie, but the dough had dried out. It cracked under my fingers. I tossed it in the trash. On the counter sat a single framed photo, Emily's wedding day. She was radiant in her white dress. Mark had his arm around her. I remembered that day well, remembered signing the check that paid for half the down payment on the house they live in now. My signature, my savings, my pride. I looked at the picture for a long time before whispering, "Enjoy your quiet Thanksgiving, sweetheart." The rest of the day moved like molasses. I turned off the oven, covered the half-made pie, and sat by the window until the streetlights came on. My phone stayed silent. Around 8, I poured myself a small glass of bourbon and raised it to the empty chair across from me. "Happy Thanksgiving, Maria," I said. "Your daughter's doing fine. Just forgot where she came from, that's all." Outside, the wind picked up, rustling the dry leaves against the porch steps. Somewhere in the distance, a neighbor's family burst into laughter, the kind that fills a house and makes you ache for something you can't have back. I finished my drink, washed the glass, and looked once more at the photo on the wall. A family of 3, smiling in front of a house I'd helped build. And that's when something inside me went quiet, not anger, not sadness. Just stillness. The kind that comes when you finally understand your place in someone else's story. I turned off the lights, leaving the kitchen in darkness except for the soft orange glow from the oven clock. 9:47 p.m. The pie sat half-finished on the counter, untouched and unnecessary. By morning, I'd make a decision that would change everything. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emily's face from her wedding day, the joy, the trust, the way she'd said, "You're my hero, Dad." I kept hearing that voice while the ceiling fan spun slow circles above me. By sunrise, I was already in my workshop, the one behind the house. The smell of sawdust and engine oil always calmed me. On the workbench sat the old steel filing box I hadn't opened in years. I knew what was inside: loan contracts, payment receipts, the proof of everything I'd sacrificed for Emily and her husband. Before I lifted the lid, I closed my eyes and let the memories come. 8 years earlier, Emily and Mark were newly married, both full of plans but short on money. Mark talked big, said he had a business idea that would change local logistics forever. Emily believed every word. They came to visit one Sunday, carrying a real estate brochure like it was a newborn. "Dad," Emily said, excitement sparkling in her eyes, "we found the perfect place. 3 bedrooms, near the lake, big yard for the kids we'll have one day." I laughed. "Kids already? You've been married 6 months." She smiled the same shy smile her mother used to give me when she wanted something. Then Mark cleared his throat and handed me the brochure. "The problem," he said, "is the down payment. The bank wants 75 grand. We've got 30 saved. We were wondering if you'd consider a short-term family loan." A short-term family loan. Those 4 words should have made me cautious, but Emily was my only child, and I'd promised her mother I'd always look after her. I sold my pickup, cashed out a small pension, and handed them a cashier's check for $75,000. When the house closed, Emily hugged me so tight I could feel her heartbeat. "You'll never regret this, Dad. I swear." For the next 2 years, I helped them with every little thing: painting, wiring, even landscaping. Mark called me "Sir" at first, then "Rick," like we were equals. But I saw how he flinched when his friends dropped by and found me fixing gutters in my work boots. The way he said, "My father-in-law's helping out again," like I was a handyman, not the man who'd bankrolled his roof. Still, I kept giving. When his delivery company hit trouble, I lent him another $25,000 so he could cover payroll until contracts came through. He signed a promissory note, his idea, he said, to make it professional. By the 3rd year, I'd sunk almost $120,000 into their life. My retirement fund was gone. I didn't mind. Every time I visited, Emily would say, "It's all worth it, Dad. We're building something together." When her mother, Maria, got sick, Emily promised to visit the hospital every weekend. She came twice. Mark said she was overwhelmed with work. I told myself not to judge, young people handle grief differently. But the day Maria passed, only I was there holding her hand. Before she died, she whispered, "Don't let our daughter forget who she is." Those were her last words. I didn't understand their weight until now. I flipped through the paperwork in the steel box, loan agreements, copies of wire transfers, the property deed with my lien recorded in black ink. My name sat under primary secured lender. Every signature was proof that what I'd given hadn't been charity. It was trust documented in legal language. The page that stopped me was the one Emily had signed herself. She'd added a smiley face next to her name. To make it less scary, she joked. My chest tightened remembering it. I closed the box and leaned back in my chair. Around me, the workshop was full of half-finished projects, birdhouses I'd planned to sell, an old engine block I'd meant to rebuild. Everything in my life had been put on hold for her future. I thought about the nights I'd skipped dinner to make extra payments on my own mortgage so she'd have an inheritance someday. About the Christmas I'd spent alone while she and Mark vacationed in Aspen, networking with investors, she'd said. I remembered sending her grocery money when she said times were tough, then seeing photos on social media of their new stainless steel appliances. It wasn't just money I'd lost. It was pride. I walked back inside and sat at the kitchen table with a notepad. I started writing every figure from memory. $75,000 initial loan for down payment. $25,000 business loan. $12,500 for emergency roof repairs. Countless weekends of labor I never charged for. Total, $112,500 in principal. Years of interest uncounted. I stared at the number until it blurred. Then I wrote one more line underneath. Respect, priceless, but overdue. Around noon, Emily texted, "Hope you're okay, Dad. We'll make it up to you soon. Promise." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my laptop and checked the county recorder's website. My lien was still active. The property value had tripled since they bought it. On paper, they owed me $112,500, in reality, they owed me something far deeper. For the first time in years, I felt steady. Not angry, focused. The kind of calm you get when grief runs out of tears and leaves only purpose. I closed the browser and looked again at Maria's photo on the mantel. She was smiling, flower on her cheek, the same picture Emily kept on her fridge. "You told me not to let her forget," I whispered. "I won't." That evening, I took the steel box inside and placed it on the kitchen counter. Tomorrow, I drive to my lawyer's office and ask one simple question: how long does it take to collect on a family loan when respect dies before the borrower does? I already knew the answer would change everything. The morning after I opened that steel box, I decided to drive across town. I wasn't looking for a fight, I just wanted to see my daughter's face, to remind her I existed. Maybe she'd realize what she'd said, call me inside, pour coffee, apologize. That's what fathers tell themselves when hope refuses to die. I baked another pie, pumpkin again, the one she loved as a kid, and wrapped it in foil. The crust cracked a little on one edge, but it smelled perfect. I set it on the passenger seat and started the old Ford. The engine coughed twice before catching, like it knew the trip would hurt. The neighborhood was all new money, polished driveways, stone facades, identical mailboxes. Their house stood near the corner, the one I'd helped them pick back when Emily said, "It's a fixer-upper, Dad, but it'll be ours." I parked at the curb. Through the big front window, I could see movement, table settings, flowers, the kind of holiday decorations you'd see in a magazine. The driveway gleamed, newly power-washed. I noticed the BMW I'd co-signed for sitting there, sparkling like arrogance. I rang the bell. Mark opened the door. He wore a button-down shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. His face tightened the moment he saw me. "Mr. Lopez," he said, "never Dad, not even Ricardo." What brings you out here? I lifted the pie. Brought dessert. Thought I'd drop it off for Thanksgiving. He didn't open the screen door. That's thoughtful. But Emily's kind of tied up right now. Her parents-in-law just arrived. I looked past him. The living room glowed with warm light, a 12-seat table stretching across the space. I caught a glimpse of Emily in a pale sweater, arranging silverware. Her head turned, eyes widening when she saw me. "Dad," she said, half smiling, walking over. Mark stepped aside, reluctant. He just stopped by with a pie. "Come in," she said quickly, glancing over her shoulder. "Just for a minute." Inside, everything smelled of butter and rosemary, no trace of the cinnamon I'd taught her to use. Two older people stood near the fireplace, Mark's parents. They had that country club polish, expensive clothes, perfect posture, polite smiles that never touched their eyes. Emily said, "Mom, Dad, this is my father, Ricardo." Her mother-in-law offered a tight smile. "Oh, the Ricardo. We've heard so much about you." I wasn't sure what "so much" meant, but her tone filled in the blanks. I set the pie on the counter. "Hope you like pumpkin. It's from an old family recipe." Mark's father chuckled. "Ah, the traditional stuff. We're more into lighter fare these days, cranberry tarts, things like that." "Nothing wrong with traditional," I said. Emily shot me a look, quick, nervous. "Dad, we really appreciate it, but dinner's about to start and—" Mark's mother interrupted, whispering loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Maybe we can keep the kitchen tidy for once, dear. Pumpkin can be so heavy." Emily flushed. "Right. Of course." She turned back to me, voice small. "Dad, maybe you could take it home and we'll share it later this weekend?" That's when it landed. They didn't want me there. Not just for dinner, at all. I looked around the room, at the walls I'd helped paint, the floors I'd paid to refinish, the lights I'd installed myself while Mark bragged to his friends about his contractor connections. Every corner of that house held my fingerprints, but there was no place for me. Mark coughed. "We've got a pretty full table tonight, sir. Appreciate you understanding." I nodded slowly. "Sure. Don't want to make anyone uncomfortable." Then I heard it. A woman's voice, Mark's mother again, murmuring to Emily near the fireplace. "It's sweet he tries, dear, but you really should teach him boundaries. You can't let that side of the family drag you down. Appearances matter." Emily whispered something back, too low to catch, then laughed softly. "Boundaries. That side of the family." Something cold moved through my chest. I walked back to the counter, lifted the pie, and said quietly, "Guess I'll save this one for myself." No one stopped me. Outside, the air was sharp with the smell of pine. I set the pie carefully on the passenger seat, closed the door, and stood there a long moment, staring at the house. Behind the curtains, silhouettes moved, arranging plates, pouring wine. A family picture, perfect from the street. I could almost hear Maria's voice beside me, "You give, they take. One day, you'll have to stop giving." I drove home slow, headlights carving tunnels through the early dusk. Halfway there, I pulled over at a gas station and just sat, hands on the wheel. My reflection in the windshield looked old, older than 62. I thought about every nail I'd hammered for that house, every dollar wired, every favor called in. I'd done it because I wanted Emily to have security, not shame. But somewhere between those loans and their lifestyle, respect had vanished. When I got home, I left the pie on the counter. Didn't even take the foil off. I poured coffee instead, black, bitter. And sat at the kitchen table staring at nothing. A text came through an hour later, "Sorry if dinner felt awkward. They just aren't used to big family stuff. Love you, Dad." I typed back, "Love you too, kid," then deleted the message before sending it. Love without respect isn't love. It's dependency with a prettier name. That night I pulled the steel box back onto the table, switched on the lamp, and studied the documents again. The ink hadn't faded. Every promise was still there, binding as the day we signed. I ran my thumb over her smiley face signature and whispered, "You forgot who helped you build your dream." The next morning, I didn't bake, didn't listen to the radio. I put on my old brown jacket, tucked the folder under my arm, and headed downtown. The lawyer's office was quiet, the way serious places always are. The receptionist recognized me. "Morning, Mr. Lopez. Here to see Mr. Delgado?" "Yeah," I said. "It's about a family matter." When I sat across from Tom Delgado's desk, he glanced at the papers, whistled low. "You've got ironclad documents here, Rick. What's going on?" I told him everything, about the Thanksgiving call, the pie, the whispers about that side of the family. I told him about the years of help, the loans, the promises. He leaned back, studying me. "You sure you want to go down this road? Foreclosing on your own daughter, that's heavy." I met his eyes. So was burying my wife alone. Silence stretched between us. Then he nodded once. "All right. Let's talk procedure." And right there, with the smell of old leather and coffee in the air, I started the process that would tear my family apart, and, somehow, finally put it back together. Tom Delgado's office smelled like old books and cigar smoke. I'd known him nearly 20 years, he'd handled every contract I ever signed, every small claims dispute when a client tried to short me on construction work. He'd also been at Maria's funeral, standing in the back row, hat in hand. He turned the last page of the loan file, tapping his pen against the signature line. "Rick, this is airtight. Recorded lien, acceleration clause, personal guarantee. You're the first secured lender on their house." "I remember every word of that contract," I said. "Mark insisted on making it formal, said it would protect everyone." Tom nodded. "It protects you. They missed 3 payments, you can call the note due in full. They insulted you, sure, but that's not default." I leaned forward. "What about breach of covenant?" "They agreed to maintain a mutually respectful relationship between lender and borrower." "That was your phrasing." He blinked. "You actually kept that clause. Page 3, Section C." I slid the document toward him. Tom adjusted his glasses, reread the paragraph, then looked at me. "Technically, hostile treatment could trigger it. But it's rarely enforced. Courts hate family foreclosures. I'm not looking for a fight in court. I'm looking for closure." He studied me for a long time, then sighed. "You're serious." "I gave them everything, Tom. They bought that house with my blood. Now I'm the embarrassment they hide from their dinner guests." He pushed the file back. "Then here's what happens. You serve a notice of default. They'll have 30 days to pay the full balance, principal, interest, and penalties. If they don't, you file intent to foreclose. After that, it's business." "Business," I repeated. He nodded. "Not revenge. Business." I stood. "You'll draft the notice?" "I'll have it ready by tomorrow. Certified mail, return receipt." As I left the office, the afternoon sun hit the glass doors like fire. I thought about Maria again, her warning, her faith that kindness could fix anything. Maybe she'd forgive me for what I was about to do. I wasn't sure I could forgive myself. That evening I sat at my kitchen table with the letter open on the laptop screen. Notice of default and demand for full payment. Balance due, $112,500 plus interest and fees. Payment due within 30 days of receipt, or lender will proceed with foreclosure. My signature went at the bottom, steady and bold. I printed 2 copies, one for the record, one for the courier. Before sealing the envelope, I whispered, You wanted boundaries, Emily. Here they are. The next morning, Tom's assistant met me at the county office to file the paperwork. The clerk stamped the forms without a flicker of emotion. To her, it was just another transaction. To me, it was a death certificate for the family I'd once known. By lunchtime the certified letter was on its way to their mailbox. 30 days. I didn't call, didn't text. I spent the first week fixing the fence in my backyard, sanding the old wood until it gleamed. Manual work clears the mind, it also gives it space to replay memories you wish you could forget. On the 8th day, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Dad? It was Emily, her voice high, panicked. We just got this letter. What is this? Are you foreclosing on us? I'm enforcing a contract, I said evenly. Same one you both signed. Dad, please. We've never missed a payment. Respect was part of the payment, Emily. She went silent. I could hear Mark in the background, angry, muffled. Then she said, You can't mean this. I meant every word I ever wrote. I hung up. My hands shook afterward, not from guilt but from release. Years of swallowed pride had finally found a voice. 3 days later, Mark showed up at my door. He didn't knock so much as pound. When I opened it, he shoved the notice toward me. This is insane, he said. You're ruining your daughter's life because your feelings got hurt. I gestured toward the paper. You signed those terms. She's your daughter. And you're her husband. Maybe you should have protected her better. He stepped closer. You think anyone's going to side with you when this hits the community? People will think you're cruel, senile. I've been called worse by better men. I closed the door. Through the wood, I heard him mutter, Old fool. His car roared away. By week 2, whispers had already started. A neighbor asked casually at the grocery store if it was true I was evicting family. The local paper called for comment. I ignored them all. That Friday, Tom rang. You'll see some noise in the media, he said. They've retained counsel, but legally you're clean. If they don't pay by the deadline, we proceed. Then we proceed, I said. That weekend I received a voicemail from Emily. I listened once and deleted it, but the words lingered. I don't understand who you've become, Dad. You used to say family was everything. I answered in my head, family is everything until they forget you're part of it. Halfway through the countdown, I stopped at the diner where I used to take Emily for pancakes after church. The waitress, Rosa, recognized me. Haven't seen you in a while, Rick. How's your girl? She's learning about contracts, I said. Rosa frowned but didn't ask. She slid me extra syrup. You always did believe in teaching lessons the hard way. I smiled, though it didn't reach my eyes. Day 25 brought an unexpected twist. Tom called again. They're offering a partial settlement, $20,000 now, payment plan for the rest. No. Rick, that's a reasonable olive branch. I'm not collecting money, Tom. I'm collecting respect. Partial doesn't cover that. He exhaled. Then I'll prepare the final paperwork. On the 30th day, the clock ran out. The payment window closed at 5 p.m. At 5:37, I received a text from Mark. You win. Hope you can live with yourself. I turned off the phone. The following morning, Tom filed the intent to foreclose with Maricopa County. A sheriff's deputy would deliver the notice within 48 hours. That night, I sat alone on the porch with a glass of bourbon, watching the desert sky fade from red to black. Somewhere out there, my daughter was packing boxes or crying or cursing my name. I didn't know which, and for the first time, I didn't need to. I'd spent my life fixing other people's messes. This one, I let break. Still, guilt is a quiet thing. It creeps in when the wind dies down. I caught myself whispering, "I'm sorry, Emily," to the dark. Then, as if answering me, a coyote howled far off across the ridge. The next morning brought a sense of finality I hadn't expected. Tom handed me copies of the filings, stamped and official. "It's done," he said. "They'll have 30 more days before the property reverts to you." I thanked him, folded the papers into the steel box, and locked it. Later that day, a reporter left a voicemail asking for a statement on the human side of the foreclosure. I didn't return the call. Let the world guess the reasons. But that night, before bed, I made a note in my ledger. Lesson filed: never lend what you can't afford to lose. Including family. The certified notice reached them on a Monday morning. By Tuesday night, the neighborhood already knew. I found out at the grocery store. 2 women by the produce aisle stopped talking when I walked past. One of them whispered, "That's him." The other shook her head like she was looking at a monster. By the time I got home, my voicemail was full: reporters, old friends, even a church deacon who wanted to understand the situation before judging. There was nothing to explain. A debt was due. Still, that night I sat on the porch listening to the hum of the desert and wondering when private pain had become public entertainment. 3 days later, the headline hit the Arizona Republic. Phoenix father forecloses on daughter's home over holiday dispute. My picture from a trade association brochure sat next to a photo of Emily and Mark in front of their house, the caption reading, "The family home at the center of the Thanksgiving feud." The article quoted Mark: "We offered to repay him gradually, but he refused. He wanted to punish us." Punish. The word twisted my stomach. I wasn't punishing anyone, I was collecting what I was owed, respect included. By noon, 3 clients called to pause contracts. They didn't want bad publicity. One supplier asked if I was financially stable. Tom phoned that afternoon. "Rick, brace yourself. The media's building a narrative: heartless father, innocent couple." They left out the loans, the promissory note, everything. "Let them talk," I said. "I've got the documents." He hesitated. "You sure you want to fight this publicly?" "I've spent a lifetime building my name, Tom. I'm not letting them destroy it with sympathy headlines." That evening, the local news aired a 2-minute segment. The reporter stood outside Emily's house. Behind her, lights glowed softly through the windows, my windows. Emily appeared on camera, eyes red, voice trembling. "My father's always been proud," she said. "But this isn't him. He's letting anger ruin our family." The camera lingered on her for a moment too long, long enough for viewers to pick their villain. I poured a drink, muted the television, and stared at the silent footage. They'd framed her perfectly: soft light, sympathetic music. No mention of the paperwork. No mention of the insults. Just the image of a broken daughter and the implication of a cruel father. The next day, a different kind of call came in. A man's voice, low, uncertain. "Mr. Lopez?" "Name's Ryan. I'm with Channel 12. Off the record, your daughter's husband fed us that story. You want to give your side, we'll listen." I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "Tomorrow morning. I'll bring proof." When I arrived at the station, Ryan met me in the lobby. "You sure about this?" he asked. "Truth doesn't need sure," I said, handing him a flash drive. "Play what's on there." He plugged it into his laptop. The recording filled the small office, Mark's mother's voice from that night I brought the pie. "You can't let that side of the family drag you down. Appearances matter." Then Emily's laugh, small, embarrassed. Ryan looked up slowly. "You recorded this?" Doorbell camera picked it up. "Audio range extends to the foyer." He nodded. "This changes the story." That evening, Channel 12 aired my interview. No soft music this time, no filters. Just my face, tired but steady. I told them about the loans, the signatures, the broken promises. I didn't mention the Thanksgiving humiliation, just the facts. Then Ryan played the audio. The clip lasted 14 seconds. Enough. The next morning, Family Lies trended on local social media. Comments split down the middle, Team Emily and Team Ricardo. Some called me a legend for standing my ground, others said I was cold. Either way, silence was gone. A week later, Mark's parents showed up unannounced. A black BMW rolled into my driveway, polished like pride. They stepped out dressed as if for court. Mark's father went first. "Mr. Lopez, we need to talk." I opened the door but didn't invite them in. "Talk here." He frowned. "You humiliated our family on television." "Your words did that," I said. His wife's voice cracked. "You violated privacy. You recorded us without consent. Arizona's a one-party consent state, ma'am. Look it up." They looked stunned. I added, "You should teach your son about contracts before lecturing me on laws." Mark's father stepped closer, his voice dropping. "You think you've won something here? You've destroyed your daughter." I met his eyes. "No. I stopped her from destroying herself." He stared for a moment, then turned away. They left without another word. That confrontation should have felt like victory. It didn't. The following night, Emily called again. I almost didn't pick up. "Dad," she said quietly. "You made your point. We can't raise the money in time. Mark's furious, his parents are humiliated, and she stopped. "I just wanted to ask, why? Why now?" "Because you taught me something," I said. "Family without respect is just debt without interest. Eventually it defaults." She didn't answer. Just breathed into the phone, soft and broken. "I wish Mom were here. She'd know what to do." "So do I," I said. "Good night, Emily." The next morning, Tom sent me an email. "Public opinion's shifting. People see the full story now. But expect legal noise from Mark's side, slander threats, maybe a harassment claim. We'll handle it." I replied with one sentence, "Proceed as planned." By week 3, the story had burned through every news cycle. Hashtags turned into memes, then disappeared under the next scandal. My business calls resumed slowly. Some clients returning, others gone for good. But the damage inside the family couldn't be undone. The day before the 30-day deadline, I drove by their house. Boxes lined the porch. A moving truck idled at the curb. Through the window, I saw Emily carrying picture frames, her shoulders slumped. Mark barked orders, waving papers. For a moment, guilt crawled back. Then I remembered that Thanksgiving call, the words, "limited space this year." There's always room for respect, I thought. Everything else is clutter. That night I got one last message, from Mark. "Congratulations. You made your daughter cry herself sick. Hope the house feels worth it." I didn't reply. But I saved the text. Paperwork for the soul. A few days later, Ryan called again. "The network wants a follow-up segment, where things stand now. You game?" I thought about it. "Only if I can end it my way." He agreed. When the camera rolled, I looked straight at it. People say I ruined Thanksgiving. Maybe I did. But Thanksgiving stopped being about gratitude the moment my daughter decided respect was optional. I built that house with my hands and my savings. All I asked in return was a seat at the table. Instead, I got silence. I paused, letting the weight sit. Now we're all eating alone. The clip aired that evening, unedited. The calls stopped after that. So did the gossip. Public outrage is a short-term investment, attention always moves on. But the foreclosure clock didn't. 30 days were up. The next phase would begin. The county sheriff's notice went up on a Wednesday morning, thick paper, bold black letters, taped to the same front door I'd helped Emily choose from a catalog 8 years ago. Notice of trustee sale. Date, time, parcel number. By noon, half the block had seen it. I parked across the street, engine off, window cracked just enough to breathe. The air smelled like dust and fried leaves. From that distance I could see everything, the curtains twitching, the outline of Mark pacing, the shape of Emily slumped on the couch. 30 days had passed. Not a cent paid. A silver U-Haul backed into the driveway around 10. 3 men in work gloves began carrying boxes. No shouting, no drama, just the quiet rhythm of people dismantling a life. When Emily stepped onto the porch, she was barefoot. Her hair was pulled back, face pale. She carried a cardboard box labeled kitchen. She saw my truck. Stopped. For a heartbeat we just stared at each other through the glare. Then she looked away and kept walking. Mark came out next, barking instructions, phone pressed to his ear. I could hear fragments, lawyer, illegal, appeal. All noise. A deputy's cruiser rolled up beside the curb. The officer got out, nodded to me, then crossed the street. Procedure. He handed Mark a second envelope, confirmation that the property was officially in default. Mark's shoulders sagged, for once he didn't argue. At 11:30, the first piece of furniture hit the truck. The leather sectional I'd helped them pick out when they couldn't afford new. I remembered how proud Emily had been that day, swiping her credit card while I quietly paid half the balance behind her back. Now it was wrapped in moving blankets, leaving through the door like dignity itself. I stayed in the truck until the last box was loaded. Then, out of instinct more than courage, I stepped out. The deputy looked up. "Mr. Lopez," he said quietly. "All clear. They're vacating peacefully. Appreciate it." Emily froze halfway down the driveway when she heard my voice. Mark turned too, face red from the heat and humiliation. "This what you wanted?" he shouted. "You proud of yourself?" I didn't raise my voice. I wanted accountability. Pride's got nothing to do with it. He took a step forward, fists clenched, but the deputy shifted slightly, a silent reminder. Mark stopped, exhaled hard, then spat near the curb. "You destroyed your daughter's life over a holiday dinner." I looked straight at Emily. "No. I destroyed the lie that family means enabling disrespect." She whispered, "Dad, please. We don't have anywhere to go." "You have choices," I said. "You just never chose me." For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she turned away, climbed into the truck, and closed the door. The U-Haul pulled off slowly, sunlight flashing across its metal side until it disappeared at the end of the street. Inside, the house was silent except for the echo of my footsteps on hardwood floors. The smell of lemon polish still hung in the air. In the kitchen, their fancy mixer sat on the counter, unplugged, probably too heavy to pack. I touched the cool metal surface, remembering the day she told me, "It's professional grade, Dad. I'll bake all the time." She never had. The deputy waited by the door, clipboard ready. "Need me to stay while you change locks?" "I'll handle it," I said. He nodded, left quietly. When the locksmith arrived an hour later, he worked fast. New keys jingled in my hand by 2 p.m. The house was mine again, legally, completely. You'd think victory would feel sweet. It didn't. It felt like standing in an empty church after the congregation's gone, echoes of prayers still clinging to the air. That evening, I opened every window and let the desert breeze roll through. Sunlight caught the dust like gold particles. I walked from room to room, taking inventory of ghosts. The dent in the hallway wall where Mark had once bumped a ladder. The faint crayon line near the baseboard from when Emily helped me paint. The faint smell of her perfume lingering in the master bedroom. Each mark was proof of something once alive. I sat at the kitchen table, same spot where I'd once signed the loan papers, and placed the foreclosure judgment beside me. It listed every figure in black ink: principal, interest, penalties, fees. Balance satisfied in full. Numbers never lie, but they don't comfort either. My phone buzzed. Emily's name. I hesitated, then answered. Her voice was small. We're staying at Mark's parents' place for now. Good. The baby's due in March. That word, baby, landed like a stone in water. I hadn't known. Congratulations. I didn't want it to be like this, she said. I just wanted everyone to get along. Everyone except me. Silence. Then she whispered, do you hate me? No, Emily. Hate's easy. I still love you. That's harder. She started crying softly. I let her. When she calmed, she said, what are you going to do with the house? Fix it up. Maybe rent it. Maybe sell. Could you, wait? Give us a chance to buy it back someday. I thought for a moment. Respect first. Then we'll talk about money. She sniffed. Okay. Take care of yourself, I said, and ended the call. Over the next few days, news of the eviction made one final circuit online. Some people called me ruthless, others called me disciplined. None of them knew the truth, that justice often feels like grief wearing a suit. Tom stopped by Friday evening with paperwork for me to sign. Market strong, he said. If you sell now, you'll clear close to $250,000 after expenses. I glanced around the empty living room. Maybe later. Let it breathe a bit. He studied me. You did what the law allowed. Doesn't mean it feels good. It feels necessary, I said. He nodded, left me with the documents, and disappeared into the fading light. That night I cooked dinner in the bare kitchen, just beans and rice, the way Maria used to when money was tight. I ate at the counter, no plates, no candles, just quiet. Outside, the neighborhood glowed with Christmas lights, families gathering, laughter spilling from open windows. I wasn't invited anywhere, but for the first time in years, I didn't feel excluded. I felt free. I cleaned the dishes, locked up, and stepped outside. The new keys caught the porch light as I turned them in my hand. This was the price of dignity. High, but paid in full. I looked at the dark horizon and whispered to Maria, our daughter will remember this one day. Maybe not today, maybe not soon. But she'll know. The wind shifted, carrying the faint scent of sage from the desert. For the first time since that Thanksgiving call, I slept through the night without waking. 6 months passed before I saw Emily again. Spring came early that year, desert blooms spilled color across the highways. I'd kept the house but hadn't moved in. Instead, I used weekends to repair what time and resentment had worn down, patching drywall, repainting trim, fixing the irrigation lines Mark had ignored. Every swing of the hammer dulled the anger a little. By May, the place looked alive again. I thought about selling, then decided against it. The house had started to feel like neutral ground, a monument to lessons learned. One Sunday afternoon, while I was staining the porch rail, a car stopped at the curb. The engine idled, then cut. Emily stepped out. Alone. She was thinner, quieter in posture, eyes hidden behind sunglasses. She held a small paper bag and walked slowly up the path like someone visiting a gravesite. Dad, she said. Emily. I set the brush down, wiped my hands on a rag. Didn't expect company. I know. I just needed to see you. She handed me the bag. Inside was a tiny pair of baby socks, yellow, knitted. For Lily, she said. She's 2 weeks old. My throat tightened. Healthy. Perfect. She smiled faintly, the first real one in months. Mark left before she was born. He couldn't handle the press, the debt, or maybe just me. His parents moved back to Chicago. I'm sorry. I'm not, she said softly. It's quieter now. We stood in silence, listening to the wind rustle the mesquite trees. Finally she said, "Can I see the inside?" I hesitated, then opened the door. The house smelled of fresh paint and cedar polish. Sunlight streamed through bare windows, touching the wood floors we'd once installed together. She walked room to room like she was tracing ghosts. "It's beautiful," she said. "Better than before." I kept it simple. No marble countertops, no imported lights. She laughed under her breath. Mom would have loved that. We ended up in the kitchen. I poured 2 glasses of water and set them on the counter. She glanced at the spot where her mixer used to sit. "I watched your interview," she said. "The one where you said everyone's eating alone now. Truth usually sounds lonely." She nodded. It made me think. I wanted everything to look perfect because I thought success would make you proud. But you were already proud. I just couldn't see it. I didn't answer. Words felt cheap next to what we'd lost. Then she reached into her pocket and slid a folded document across the counter, a check for $50,000. "It's all I could manage," she said. "I sold the car, emptied what savings I had. I know it doesn't erase anything, but I want to start paying you back." I looked at the check, then at her. "Keep it. You owe me respect, not money." Tears welled in her eyes. "Then let me earn both. One step at a time." I nodded. "Fair deal." We spent the rest of the afternoon cleaning the porch together, same way we used to when she was little, me sanding, her sweeping. She told me about her new job at a daycare, how the other teachers helped with Lily while she worked. Her voice carried hope I hadn't heard since before the wedding. When the sun dipped low, she said, "Dad, could we, maybe, have Thanksgiving here this year?" The question hung in the air like a test. "Only if you bring the pie," I said. Her smile broke wide and honest. "I'll learn Mom's recipe. Then we'll both be there in spirit," I said. By November, the house was full again, not of wealth or decorations, but people who meant something. Emily cooked, I supervised. Lily sat in a high chair gnawing on a spoon. The smell of cinnamon finally returned to the kitchen. Before dinner, Emily raised her glass of cider. "To second chances," she said. I added, "and to remembering where we came from." After the meal, we sat on the porch watching the desert stars blink to life. Emily rocked Lily in her arms. "I used to think you were cold for doing what you did," she said. "Now I see it was the only thing that could wake me up." "Boundaries are loud when people ignore them," I said. She laughed softly. "You sound like Mom." I smiled. She taught me everything worth keeping. Months later, I drew up new papers, a quitclaim deed transferring the house back to Emily, with conditions written in plain language. 1. The home must remain family property. 2. It hosts Thanksgiving every year. 3. No loans between relatives, ever again. When she came to sign it, she read every line carefully, then looked up. "Are you sure?" "I'm not giving it back," I said. "I'm passing it forward. Earn it by honoring it." She signed, tears sliding down her cheeks. Now, when Sunday dinners fill the rooms with laughter, I sit in my old chair by the window and listen. Sometimes I still see Maria in the kitchen's reflection, flour on her cheek, humming. Emily's learned to make the pies perfectly, brown sugar crust, just the right spice. She always sends me home with a slice. I keep one promise every year, I eat it cold the next morning, standing by the counter, same way I did the day she told me I wasn't expected. Only this time, there's warmth in the silence. People ask if I regret foreclosing on my own daughter. I tell them regret isn't the right word. Regret is for mistakes. This was a reckoning. Some truths demand consequences before they teach compassion. I learned that love without boundaries turns to resentment, and forgiveness without responsibility becomes weakness. The law didn't fix my family, accountability did. Money can build a house, but only respect makes it a home. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of something you've lived or lost, subscribe. Real stories like this deserve to be remembered, because sometimes the harshest endings are the ones that finally make us whole. I never set out to become a headline. I was just a father who loaned his daughter money and trusted her to remember where it came from. The law called it a foreclosure. For me, it was a confession written in ink, proof that sometimes love has to wear the face of consequence. After everything, after the cameras left, after neighbors stopped whispering, I realized how small the world becomes when pride builds its walls. I'd spent years mistaking generosity for connection, thinking the more I gave, the stronger the bond would grow. Instead, it turned elastic, stretching until it snapped. People still ask me, was it worth it? Taking the house back. And I tell them the truth, I didn't take a house. I reclaimed a boundary. The law didn't heal anything, it just forced honesty to the surface. Behind every legal clause and notarized signature was a lifetime of quiet sacrifices, missed vacations, double shifts, nights holding my wife's hand in a hospital room. All of that was invisible until someone decided I was disposable. You learn fast that betrayal doesn't always shout. Sometimes it comes wrapped in politeness, limited space this year, next time, Dad. Those phrases sound harmless until you realize they're eviction notices for the heart. Foreclosing wasn't revenge, it was the last tool left in the box. And like every tool I've ever used, it left calluses. When the deed finally returned to Emily, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt equal. She'd looked me in the eye, owned her part, and started paying back what couldn't fit on a ledger, respect. That was the real repayment. If there's a lesson in all this, it's simple. Love without limits will drain you, rules built on love will save you. Some folks think family should forgive everything. They forget forgiveness isn't the same as permission. You can love someone and still lock the door when they stop knocking with decency. Every Thanksgiving now, when Emily and I set the table, there's an extra chair. Not for guests, for memory. For Maria, who warned me not to let our daughter forget who she was. I think we finally honored that. Sometimes Lily toddles over, waving her tiny fork, asking, "Grandpa, tell story?" And I tell her the same one, about the house that was lost and found again, about how grown-ups make mistakes, and how saying no can be the loudest form of love. She laughs halfway through every time, not understanding the weight. That's fine. One day she'll hear the quiet between the words. As for me, I've stopped checking headlines, stopped defending myself online. You can't win a debate with people who've never carried your burden. The story lives here now, in this house, in this truth. When I lock the door each night, I think about that first call from Emily, "It might be better if you didn't come." I used to replay it with bitterness. Now I hear it as a turning point, the sound of a man deciding not to be erased. I came, all right. Just not for dinner. I came for dignity. If you've listened this far, thank you. Stories like this aren't entertainment for me, they're reminders that real life writes its own verdicts. If you value stories that pull truth from pain, subscribe. There are plenty more where justice and family collide, and every one of them carries a heartbeat like this. Because in the end, the real crime isn't foreclosure or betrayal. It's forgetting that respect is the currency that keeps love alive. And that's a debt none of us can afford to leave unpaid.